Hola, hola. I'm always so awkward when I first start these lives because I'll be feeling like I'm talking to myself until people come in the live and start like commenting. But hola, welcome. I'm gonna start in a minute. I just always like to give people a chance to come into the live. Let me know if you guys can hear me. If you can't hear me, please let me know. She's calm, cool, and collected. 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 I'm actually not calm, cool, and collected. Uh, and this is why I love and hate doing this. I love it and hate it at the same time. I love it because it gives me purpose, but I hate it because I'm always so nervous. I'm always so anxious. So I'm gonna go ahead and get right into the message. There's a thin line between spiritual psychosis and truly having a spiritual awakening. And the reason why I say it's a thin line is because certain aspects of a spiritual awakening can look like psychosis to a person who is spiritually disconnected. And this is something that I've been thinking about for a long time. Because I'm going to be real. There was a point in time I was wondering if I was going through spiritual psychosis. But then I realized I wasn't because it's a lot more extreme than people realize. And sometimes people who get labeled as crazy are really just spiritually gifted. And that's why I say it's a thin line between having a spiritual awakening and actually going through spiritual psychosis. So, what is psychosis? Psychosis is a mental condition in which a person loses touch with reality. This usually includes hallucinations and delusions. And a lot of times it involves paranoia, the person being super paranoid. And I didn't know this until I looked it up the other day. The causes of psychosis are trauma, brain tumors, high levels of stress, chemical imbalance, even substance use, even sleep deprivation, even side effects from medication can cause psychosis. Now, let's specifically get into spiritual psychosis. In my humble opinion, spiritual psychosis is when a person is super deep into, I don't even want to say super deep because I'm a very deep person and I'm a very spiritual person. But anytime a person is so deep into spiritual or even religious aspects or concepts to the point where it consumes them, that person is most likely in spiritual psychosis. And a lot of times, these people seem like they're in a trance. It's like there's no reasoning with them. I'll give a perfect example. Think about Christians who look at everything as demonic. Literally, just existing in the world is demonic. Like, they make it to a point where you feel bad for even leaving your house because you don't want to be out in the world. Literally, like people who dedicate their lives to looking for things that are demonic in every little thing, constantly looking up symbolism. People like that are in spiritual psychosis. Because, like I said, and forgive me for losing my voice, this always happens. Let me drink some more water. But as I was saying, it's to the point where they are consumed. They are so consumed to where there's no reasoning with them. I'll give a perfect example. My previous partner, I'm almost certain he was in spiritual psychosis. And at the time, I didn't know what spiritual psychosis or even psychosis was. I never even heard of that. But looking back, I realized that man was in deep spiritual psychosis. He wanted me to call him God. He would always tell me that he was a God. And there was even a time during sex, he wanted me to call him God. This man wanted me to call him God. And I was like, absolutely not. And I knew it was something wrong with him, but I was just infatuated. I was infatuated and I didn't love myself. I had very low self esteem and I didn't have the relationship that I have with God. The relationship I have with God now, I didn't have that relationship back then. That's why I was with this man, even though I knew he was crazy. But even things like him constantly preparing for Armageddon. It's like he was constantly preparing for Armageddon. Even I don't want to say too much because even though everything I'm saying is true, I don't want to share too much of his business, but there are certain things I feel like I have to use as examples. For example, he thought there were dark forces spying on him. And he was so paranoid to the point where he thought that I was in on it too. He thought I was working with these dark forces that were spying on him. And I would just be looking at him like, bruh, I treat you better than any man I've ever been with. Like, I low key worship the ground you walk on. Like, you literally have me wrapped around your finger, and you think I'm plotting behind your back? And now I realize that was the fucking problem. You looked at this man like, even though you didn't want to call him God, you were subconsciously viewing him like he was. That's why when he would be accusing me of like plotting against him with these imaginary dark forces, I would just be looking at this man like, you are effing crazy because I'm like obsessed with you. Like, that's the problem. Like, so yeah, that man was in deep spiritual psychosis. It was so bad to the point where this man put pee in the freezer. He put a bag of his pee in the freezer. And when I opened the freezer, I'm like, why is there a pee in the freezer? And he was like, I'm sorry to laugh, but it's just crazy looking back on it that I was really like tolerating all this. Even though deep down in my spirit, I'm like, something ain't right with this man. Something is not right with this man. But I asked him, I'm like, why is there pee in the freezer? And he was like, I'm doing it for protection. I'm doing it for protection from the dark forces like that are spying on me. He claimed people was doing witchcraft on him. But in my mind, I'm like, you are the evil one. Like, you saying people doing witchcraft on you, but it seems like that's what type of time you want. That's why I'm like, never in my 32 years of living. At the time, I want to say I was like 29, but never in my 30 years of living have I ever came across somebody that not only had that mindset, but did those type of things? Even him, he would put crystals by the window, and he would be like, if I would be cleaning up and I would move the crystal, not even thinking nothing of it, I'm just cleaning up. He would be like, why did you move this crystal? This crystal was for protection. Like, this crystal is going to protect us. And I'm like, bruh, God will protect us. Like, what if, and don't get me wrong, I like crystals. I don't demonize people that are into crystals. But when it's to a point where you're depending on a crystal to protect you, I'm sorry, in my humble opinion, that's a form of spiritual psychosis. Because in my mind, I'm like, you doing everything but going to God. You doing everything but going to God. You doing everything but praying. You putting pee in the freezer. You putting crystals by the windows. You doing everything but going to God. Like, I don't understand. And that's a perfect example of spiritual psychosis. And like I said at the beginning, there was even a point in time after that relationship. After that relationship, I completely gave my life to God, and not in a religious sense. Not like, oh, I'm holier than now. I'm about to go to church every Sunday. I'm getting baptized. I'm wearing turtlenecks. No. When I say I gave my life to God after that relationship, after we broke up, I was so distraught. And I literally was like, Lord, I surrender. I surrender. You can have me. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. I will never put another man or another person or anything in this world before you again. Literally, I was saying this out loud to God, like, I will never put anybody before you again. You can do whatever you want with me. I surrender. I want you to guide me. I want you to order my steps every single day. And it was beautiful. It was rainbows and butterflies because I'm like, now, and I've always been a spiritual person. But once I truly gave my life to God, that's when it's like the spiritual realm completely opened up to me. And it was just, I felt so alive. For once in my life, I felt so alive. I'm like, wow. So this is how it feels to really be close to God. This is how it feels to be in his presence every day. And I was just in heaven. But it was only a matter of time before I started wondering, am I going through spiritual psychosis? Like, I kind of feel like I'm losing my mind. But the reason why I felt like I was losing my mind is because I was receiving so much spiritual activity to the point where I'm like, yo, this is creeping me out. Like, there would be times I would have an intuition about something, but immediately my logical mind would shut it down and be like, you're crazy. You really think that's going to happen? Or you really think you can predict this? Or you really think that? And as soon as my logical mind would doubt me, guess what? What I predicted, what I had an intuition about, ended up happening. I ended up being right. So then I'm like, well, damn, I can't be going through spiritual psychosis because a lot of these things I feel, I end up being right about. So obviously, I really am hearing from God. Like, these are not just coincidences. But there was a point in time I was questioning, like, am I just going through spiritual psychosis? Am I just being delusional for having so much faith in God? And when you think about it, and that's why I say it's a slippery slope. Because when you think about it, having faith in God, having faith in something you can't see, people people could describe that as delusional. People could classify that as delusional. Even you saying you hear from God. Some people might say you're hallucinating. Some people might say you're going through spiritual psychosis just because you say, I hear from God, or God told me this, or God told me that. That's why I said it's a slippery slope. But if you're hearing from God, if you feel like you're hearing from God, and the things you feel like you're hearing from God about end up happening, or certain things happen to let you know these are not just coincidences. Trust me, you're not going through a spiritual psychosis. You're actually having a spiritual awakening. That's how you know if you're really having a spiritual awakening. If your intuition is strong, if you start having prophetic dreams, if you start having spiritual dreams to where it reflects your real life, that's how you know you're not going through a spiritual psychosis. Because I've always been a dreamer. Ever since I was a kid, I've always had prophetic dreams. But once I truly gave my life to God, after me and my ex broke up, that's when I started having more prophetic dreams and just spiritual dreams than I ever had in my life. Like I said, that's part of the reason why I wondered if I was going crazy. Because I'm like, yo, I had a dream about this. And then a few weeks later, this happened. And it was similar to how it was in the dream. But sometimes when you're vibing at that high of a frequency, you can start to wonder, like, am I going crazy? Am I losing my mind? And that's why it's so important to stay grounded in God. Stay grounded in God. Be present. Be present. I'm losing my voice, y'all. Bear with me. But be present. Be still. And always humble yourself before God. If you humble yourself before God every day, you're not going to fall into spiritual psychosis, because I think part of spiritual psychosis is thinking you know everything, thinking you have all the answers. Like I said, my ex swore up and down I was plotting against him. He swore up and down there were these dark forces constantly spying on him. He even told me he was on some type of like watch list. like, and I ain't gonna lie, I was questioning. I'm like, maybe this nigga is onto something. Like, maybe he sees something I don't see. Like, for a minute, I was thinking like maybe this really is true. But then I realized, especially when he started accusing me, I'm like, oh no, this man is just losing his mind. This man is just losing his mind. But like I said, just be present and be still and be careful not to get obsessed with, don't get caught up in looking for signs. Don't chase signs. If God wants to give you a sign of something, he's going to make it obvious. If you're constantly like looking like, oh, I'm constantly looking for angel numbers. I bought this piece of toilet paper and it said this on it, so that must be a sign from God. Like, just relax. When God speaks, you don't have to go looking for it. He's gonna make himself known. But yeah, I'm sorry for losing my voice, y'all. But I love y'all. If y'all can hear me, I love y'all. If this message spoke to you in any type of way, please make sure you like it. Please make sure you subscribe. Oh my God, my voice is so gone right now. Oh, sweet baby Jesus. But yeah. I love you guys. Make sure you like the video. I'll see y'all soon. And bye. Deuces.